Kia ora, I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel and day 3 of NaNoWriMo 2021. It's my lunch break from work and I'm using it to do housework. My life is a thrill. So, whilst I fold towels, nothing innocuous. It's not innocuous even the word I want there. Anyway, while I fold some towels, I thought I would tell you about flan. So, when you walk the Camino de Santiago, you can have a pilgrim menu at many of the restaurants that are along the pilgrimage. These are set menus which are usually around the $10 mark. They kind of range from $5 at the very, very cheap, usually run by the albergue end, $15 at the in a pretty nice bar or restaurant end. I should say €10. I don't know if I actually specified the unit of currency. Anyway, so it's a set menu, 3 courses, not particularly varied, and that's not how you fold a towel. The idea with them realistically is to feed as many people as cheaply as possible, as well as making those meals, you know, big and filling enough to accommodate whichever pilgrim comes in the door. So anyway, that's a pilgrim meal. Flan is very, very often the one of the options for dessert. And the first time I had flan, I think it was my 4th day of the Camino, my first time round, and the hospitaliero, or like the person who runs the albergue, which is like a hostel that again specifically services the Camino. Anyway, the hospitaliero said, you have to go to this restaurant, you have to have the flan, it is the best flan on the way, oh my god, you have to do it. So off we went. Oh my god, it was horrible. It was like congealed, lumpy, horrible mass, evil nightmare of a dessert. I mean, you know, we're still talking about inexpensive, but the 3 of us were just kind of forcing it down, and I'm sure the others too that I had dinner with that day probably avoided ordering it again. I know I certainly did. The problem is that the menus are in Spanish and then quite often will have an English translation. The thing I have learned is just order off the Spanish menu. Like, just learn enough Spanish to order off that menu, because that menu will be correct. The English translation might not be. So what I found out is that flan may be called flan on the English menu, or custard, or pudding, or caramel pudding. Like, there are a few variants that can appear on the English menu. So you have to know to read off the Spanish menu to confirm, okay, it's flan, and then if you think that it's a nightmarish, disgusting dessert, don't order it. This was something that other pilgrims had to learn the hard way, because like, no one on my first time walking the Camino liked flan. Like, I was having dinner with a German guy and he saw, I think the menu said like custard pudding, and he ordered it and it was flan, and he was like forcing it down to be polite, but then like when the servers weren't looking he was going like like he really hated it. But the story doesn't end there, because of course I did the Camino a second time, and I told the person I was walking with, look, flan is evil poison, don't order it for the love of God. And then, because this particular person never believes a word I say, they ordered it and loved it, thus of course proving that they should never listen to a word I say. So carried on, more and more pilgrims loving flan. Like, we went to one place and they came out and they said, oh look, there's only like 3 servings of flan, the rest of you will have to have like the ice cream or whatever it was. And this woman was like, I will have the flan! Like, she, I'm sure, would have pushed someone down to get to the flan. And I was just like, are you people insane? It's foul! So anyway, at some point, it was either curiosity or an accident, had flan, and yeah, I mean, it wasn't a horrifying congealed lumpy mess, but it still wasn't my favourite. So I guess my general review of the flan in Spain, I guess try it if it's not homemade. So the horrific version I had was homemade. The one that I had or the ones that I had, which were kind of okay if I didn't think about it too much, were not homemade. So avoid the homemade, but by all means try it. And whether you love it and want to order it again, or despise it and never want to see it again, keep in mind that the menu may say custard, it may say caramel, it may say flan, but it's always flan. If you desperately want to avoid flan, go with helado or ice cream, or chocolate. If the menu says chocolate, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. It may, I should say, if the menu says chocolate, you may get any range of things. Like, it may be a weird slice, it may be chocolate mousse, it could be a lava cake, you don't know. But if it says like chocolate dessert, it's definitely not going to be flan. But if it says something other than chocolate or ice cream, be wary, because it might be flan. So yeah, that is the tale of flan. So when I decided to be nostalgic and have it at home, I didn't actually get flan as it is in Spain. So the closest I could find to my supermarket was creme caramel, which frankly is kind of the same, but it's definitely different than what we were having in Spain. I think the stuff that's available in my local supermarket is definitely much sweeter, and there's more flavour in the custardy part. I found the ones in Spain were, from my perspective, really bland, whereas the creme caramel that you can get in my supermarket, not so much. Like, it's definitely caramelly. But nonetheless, I decided to go for it and embrace the nostalgia. So there you go. Fortunately, I have now almost run out of towels. Toast for lunch. If you are from, say, America, and New Zealand or Australian sends you Marmite or Vegemite, this is not how much Marmite you want. You want half this amount. Scrape of Marmite, like put it on and then scrape it back off. That is how much Marmite you want as a beginner. This bit where you can like see the butter underneath, actually it's cream cheese, but never mind that. This is, I have been eating Marmite my entire life, levels of Marmite consumption. Do not put it on like it's peanut butter, and for the love of God, don't sniff it before you bite it. This is my second take because I think I was a bit incoherent in my first attempt. So, what I've been doing for the last couple of hours, probably not even that, probably only about 1 hour, is going back over what I've done the last couple of days and revisiting the things which I've talked about not being 100% sure of. So one of those things was a chapter where I had lots of page breaks and I was concerned that it was lazy writing, and I had some really lovely and helpful comments about that, which I really appreciated, but ultimately I decided that I was in fact being quite lazy. Because what I had was my character, you know, being in this room with this group of people, and then a page break and she is in this room by herself, and then a page break and she's over here with somebody else, and then there's a page break and then she's over here by herself. And it was a case of, in each section she had some kind of interaction with somebody and things were happening, but there was no transition between each of those locations or groups of people she was communicating with. And so it would just have a page break and she was mysteriously in a different location. So what I have done is decide I need to actually completely delete one of the sections and rewrite it entirely, because basically what happens is she's in a room that's really crowded and there's lots of people, and then there's a page break and she's sitting in like the next room by herself, has a very brief, not important at all, interaction with a complete stranger. The interaction is vaguely amusing, but there's no dialogue even, it's actually just quite telly. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that one entirely and have the character like excuse herself from the room full of people and go for a walk, and that will show that transition to the next location. And then she can, instead of sitting by herself in this, like the bit that I'm going to delete, she was looking stuff up on her phone. So instead of that, she's going to go out and go to the tourist information office and interact with somebody to get that information. And then it can have her coming back to where she's staying, and that would get her in the third location. So it will kind of provide a bit of transition between her movements. So I think that's one fix. And then the other thing that I was umming and ahhing about was whether or not she should be kind of prone to imaginings and flights of fancy. And I have settled on the fact that yes, that's fine. I think though what was actually making me look at it and go was how I had written it, and I think because I had written it poorly, it had stuck out to me and I had started to wonder about whether or not it was okay or not. But the thing that was wrong wasn't the thing I was wondering about, so I've just reworked that scene and put in a bit more conversation with the characters, which I was wondering if they had to be more invested in them, and I've thrown in some foreshadowing and linked into a thing over there, and I think there's a lot more going on in the chapter that I revisited. And I've realised that there is a sort of a main event in the chapter that I was thinking there wasn't really much going on. It was just kind of almost like a transitional chapter, I thought, kind of showing like, you know, and then some stuff happens before this other chapter, but I've realised that there is something there that is a big deal. It's just that I didn't put a lot of emphasis on it. So I think with the bit that I'm going to rewrite, I can bring that emphasis in and we should be all good. So I think I've worked on it for about an hour, just had some dinner, and I will finish that up this evening, but that'll be it for this video because I want to get an early night because I'm kind of shattered. I don't understand how my neighbours can walk that loudly. Like, they walk as if they're angry at the ground, and I don't understand how or why. But aside from those confusions, we are all good. If you enjoyed this video, click like, subscribe, etc. and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.